News Alert. The White House ponying up, even though the Supreme Court could knock the law down. The Obama administration quietly sending the IRS $500 million to help implement the health care law. Judge Andrew Napolitano says the White House is hoping the more it spends, the harder it will be for the court to overturn the law. I don't know if that's the case, but boy, they're going full throttle.
Well, they are going full throttle, and there are Supreme Court cases which show that when the government spends money and people receive money and they expect to receive the money, the courts ought not to interfere with that. Congress can change its mind, but it's not for the court to do. Stated differently, the more machinery, the more gears, the more mechanism, pardon all those phrases, that the administration can get into place, the more difficult it will be for the court to unwind it. That's the administration's game. So,
in other words, it becomes like a force of nature, and you're doing serious damage disrupting it.
Well, sure. If the government could, let's just say that the court invalidates, for the sake of argument now, invalidates the individual mandate, but sends the rest back to Congress. The president's argument is going to be, we've already spent a couple of $1 billion. You can't dismantle the rest of it. That would be a valid argument even to make to the court. We know that they've spent $500 million on IRS agents. Question. What are those IRS agents going to do if the court invalidates the individual mandate and there's no fine or penalty or tax for them to collect?
It's very hard to get rid of a government worker.
Yes, it is.
What happens in that event? There are more IRS audits.
Right. The IRS will find out something else for them to do. Also, without reaching the front pages or the headlines, the federal government has spent $1 billion where the states have not yet spent it. The states owe that money back. What happens to that money if the individual mandate is invalidated and the rest of the statute falls? That $1 billion was spent on individual state exchanges, basically the expansion of Medicare in the states. To
exchanges that folks like Chris Christie, New Jersey, Andrew Cuomo, New York, have not set up. Correct. Maybe quietly hoping that this doesn't happen, right?
Correct. Correct.
So next year, you were telling me during the break, another thing takes effect, the Medicare payment that you have to make by way of when you sell property, for example, that surtax will still go into effect, right?
The government will begin to collect that. Let's say the Supreme Court doesn't rule on the individual mandate by June. We all believe it will, but let's say it takes its time. The government will begin to tax people who sell their homes. Question, what will it do with that money? How will it spend that money? Will it collect that tax if the individual mandate is invalidated?
So doesn't the court then, if it is going to shoot down the mandate, has to shoot down the whole thing?
One would think so. And in fact, Neil, for your viewers who think the whole statute should go, the lawyer for the government, the Solicitor General himself, said there is probably no way to sustain the statute without the individual mandate. That's a significant concession that he made during the oral argument. He said that to Justice Scalia, when Justice Scalia said, right, do you really expect us to go through line by line 2,700 pages?
Right. I love that. And Scalia was getting ripped a new one, but when Nancy Pelosi essentially said the same thing, no one cared. And they wrote it. So, but the other thing is, can the president make up for this revenue loss if the mandate goes down by hiking even further that Medicare tax provision? You say no.
Fortunately, no. That would require an act of Congress. And if the Republicans are unwilling to do so and they have significant numbers in either house, even if the president is reelected, not going to happen.
Okay. Judge, thank you very much.
You're welcome, Neil.
Judge Andrew Napolitano.